comments that you've received?
No, look, we want to confirm to South Africa that the Director of Priority Crimes from the South African Police Service has come leading a delegation of SAPS of investigators who say that they want to charge the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters with a crime which occurred on the 16th of December 2014. And then they say the crime is that in Mangaung is accused of contravening Section 18 of the Righteous Assemblies Act of 1956 because he called on members of the EFF to take up the program on land occupation. So this incident is said to have happened on the 16th of December 2014. But the NPA took a decision only last week to say that the Commander-in-Chief must be subjected to a court process, one on the 7th of November in Newcastle and two on the 14th of November in Bloemfontein Magistrate Court. So this is a reflection of a disparate state and a manipulated, captured state which the Commander-in-Chief was speaking about earlier, that is utilizing its state institutions to persecute a leader of the economic freedom fighters, the leader of the revolution in South Africa for their own narrow purposes, because there's really nothing priority about this, but already the case has been given to the Director of Priority Investigations and Priority Crimes to urgently take the Commander-in-Chief to court. So the EFF is going to respond to that, the Commander-in-Chief is going to respond to that through the legal process, is going to subject himself to the process, because we respect the institutions of democracy, the courts of law in South Africa. We respect what is provided for in terms of what should happen. But it's very apparent that they are now even utilizing apartheid legislation to try to persecute the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF for things that happened a long time ago. You can realize that you are dealing now with a very disparate, collapsing government of Jacob Zuma, which when they realize that now they are in serious trouble, they try to arrest all the people that are opposed to him. We suspect preliminarily that it's part of the response to the impending public protector report on state capture, because the CIC is part of those that have made a submission to the public protector about the incidents of state capture by the Gupta family, who have captured Jacob Zuma and the ANC for their own purposes.
Well, you indicate that the said event took place on the 16th of December 2014, this nearly 2 years later. Did the EFF or the CIC of the EFF know about any investigation against him with regards to contravening the set laws?
No, look, there was some bit of interaction then in 2014, but there was never any communication with the Commander-in-Chief between 2014 and now. They only come now to say that the NPA has issued an instruction that the charges must go ahead. So that is basically what is happening. That the NPA said on the 10th of October to say that they must be going ahead of charges against the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF for incidents that happened in 2014, and basically is being charged for a political speech, for something which he said during addressing people, when he was addressing the people in a political address, and then the state takes an act of charging him for a political speech. That is exactly what the apartheid Madras regime used to do. You can see that even the legislation which the NPA relies on to charge the Commander-in-Chief is legislation which was passed in 1956. So it's a very sad day in the history of South Africa that we have degenerated back to what the apartheid regime used to do. We have been cautioning the people of South Africa for a very long time that the ANC is behaving exactly in the same way the apartheid regime did. It killed workers in Marikana, defenseless workers in Marikana. It exonerated itself from the massacre in Marikana. Now it is employing racist apartheid legislation to charge political leaders for the political content of their speech, instead of engaging with the political speech and what is being said, they then resort to criminal charges which are being concocted. But the Commander-in-Chief is going to subject himself to that particular process.
Just a final one. Does the summons indicate who the complainants are in this matter?
We have not been given an indication of who the complainants are. So obviously the lawyers are going to deal with that when they make follow-up or in that regard to say who are the complainants in this case, and then we'll then find out and then we'll attend to it. But one thing they must be rest assured is that they're creating platforms for the EFF for political work to continue to speak to its positions in terms of what we stand for as the economic freedom fighters and as a movement that is going to liberate the South African population from the kleptocratic government of the ANC under the rulership of Jacob Zuma.
Does the CIC think that he is guilty of this charge? He might admit to making these utterances, but whether he is criminally guilty for of these utterances?
Look, I don't want to even deal with the details of that. It's obviously not guilty, and that process is going to be dealt with in detail when it goes to court and a case is presented. I don't want to deal with the merits of it in terms of what is being said there. But it is definitely a policy position of the EFF and a resolution of our conference that we should take up struggles on land reform, on land redistribution and land occupation, so that we can say that the CIC has never spoken outside of the policy framework of the economic freedom fighters. Every time he speaks about the land program, he speaks within the confines of the policy directives and commitments of the EFF, and that is what but the state, the establishment is now reacting in a very disparate way because it's collapsing. That is what collapsing regimes do. They resort to all forms of suppressive and very violent means of trying to suppress political discontent and disagreements. So that is what we are dealing with, that the democratic state is being undermined. Actually reaffirms the call that we made earlier, that we call on all South Africans on the 2nd of November to come out in their numbers to defend the democratic state. Let us go to Tswana to defend the democratic state. Let us demand for the resignation of a captured president, Jacob Zuma, who is now resorting to very dangerous means to suppress the democratic gains that were recorded in 1994.
Shivambu, thank you so much for your time. Well, there you have it. Details with regards to that summons that was just been served on the CIC of the EFF, indicating that he must be appearing in court on the 7th of November. While it seems as though there's no dispute with regards to that he made those utterances, but whether he's criminally liable is something that we'll have to wait and see. And as Shivambu has indicated, he doesn't want to get into the merits and the demerits of that case. It's back to you in studio.
Thanks very much, Aldrin. That was Aldrin Sampear, our reporter. Finance Minister